Hey friends, Beck the Feminist Lawyer here, taking another stupid walk for my stupid mental health. Again, it's not stupid. Take care of yourself and get some sunshine. So if I'm a little huffy and puffy, I hope you'll forgive me. So as your favorite local insufferable know-it-all, I am in a lot of local moms groups. And as someone with a specialty in conflict management, really gets my goat when I see a lot of parents talking about spanking their kids. Just today, I saw a post from a lady saying, "My 3-year-old is out of control." What 3-year-old isn't out of control? But she hits and kicks and punches and spits and swears and yells and throws tantrums, and I don't know what to do, which is terrible. I mean, I feel for the lady. But then she said, "I don't think the spanking is working." Well, no shit, lady. You want your kid to stop hitting, so you hit them? But it's real easy for me to sit here and get on my soapbox when I've studied conflict management. And I think a lot of people have not been taught how to handle conflicts, how to handle situations that are heightened emotionally. So I'm going to just lay down some of the advice that I would give to a mom in this situation. First thing you want to do is regulate before you educate. As some of you may have learned from sources other than me, but I have mentioned in previous videos that a brain that is in fight or flight, or that is activated in a conflict sense or adrenally, is not one that's capable of learning. That brain has nearly zero access to memory whatsoever. And the higher forms of function that live up in the prefrontal cortex totally shut down. And this is the same as a kid in a tantrum. They're down in their amygdala, way down here in the base of their brain, and the lizard has taken over. There is no reasoning with the lizard. So trying to teach a child or exacting a consequence at a moment like this is going to be completely ineffective. This is why you regulate first. And I also highly recommend co-regulation techniques. It keeps both of you regulated. Best way to get a kid to do something that you want is to give them a choice in the matter. First thing you want to do is validate the feeling. "Ooh, honey, you're having a big feeling right now and it doesn't seem like it's much fun. What can we do to help ourselves feel better when we have big feelings like this?" And of course, memory is compromised for the child at the time, so they're probably not going to be able to come up with much. Offer them a choice. Say, "Would you like to take a few minutes to breathe with me, or would you like to punch a pillow until you feel better?" Y'all, I am passing by the cutest garden right now. Isn't that adorable? I love flowers. So get them going on a regulatory technique like punching a pillow, doing some breathing, going for a run around outside, maybe doing some push-ups, etc. You do not ever let a child hurt you. So if that child is punching, kicking, trying to bite, you say, "No, we do not punch, hurt, hit, kick, spit at other people. I am not going to let you hurt me. Would you like to punch a pillow instead? Would you like to bite on this, chew necklace instead? Would you like to rip up some paper instead?" You redirect that mess and you teach a child that you don't ever have to let somebody hurt you. Once you get the child calm, you want to start talking about consequences. "Honey, I asked you nicely to pick up your toys and you didn't do that. We pick up our toys because if we leave them out, they can get broken or get in our way. Now, asking you nicely to put your toys away and reminding you why it's important to do that doesn't seem to be working. So what do I need to do to help you remember to pick your toys up? Do you need a consequence to help you remember?" This way, you're framing the consequence not as a punishment, but as a tool to help them remember what they're supposed to be doing. Many times, the child will either come up with a fair consequence on their own because they feel like that they have a choice in the matter, and you can negotiate that consequence. So a lot of times my child will say, well, maybe I need to do this chore for my brother next time, or maybe you need to take some points away out of my point account. Instead of earning an allowance, my kids earn points for chores, which they can then trade in for money for things that they want to do, like snacks or, fun things or souvenirs or whatever, but I digress. But they'll say something like, "Well, maybe I need 100 points taken off of my point account to help me remember." Or most of the time, though, they're going to say, "You know what? I don't need a consequence to help me remember. I just wasn't thinking. I will fix it now and I will do better next time." Now, a 3-year-old is not necessarily going to have that amount of self-awareness. So you might need to, say, "Okay, well, we're going to fix it now. What do we need to do to help you remember? Do we need to write it down on a chart? Do we need to talk about why it's important for you to put your toys away again? Or do you need some kind of consequence to help you remember? Because I don't want to have to do this again." It's no fun to get upset and to have these conversations, is it? So what do we have to do to avoid it in the future? And kids are smart. They'll negotiate and they'll let you know what feels fair to them. They're going to tell you what's going to be effective with them. And if it's not effective, you just remind them again. Okay, so last time you didn't do what you were asked, you told me that, you didn't need a consequence to help you remember, but you still didn't remember. So we're going to need to do a consequence this time. What do you think would be appropriate? And if they can't or won't come up with something, you come up with something for them. You say, okay, well, it seems that you can't think of anything that would be appropriate. So I think taking 100 points out of your points account would be appropriate. How do you feel about that? And try to get their buy-in. Show them that their buy-in on it is important. Because if they're able to say, okay, I think that's fair, that means they won't resent the consequence and it's more likely to be effective. Negotiations techniques work on kids too. And then review. I asked you nicely to pick up your toys. You did not do that. I reminded you why it's important and you still didn't pick them up. So we're going to give you a consequence of taking 100 points out of your point account. And you said that you thought that was fair. Are we on the same page here? Does that seem right to you? And get that yes. Yes, mommy, that seems right to me. So there's what to do. Here's what not to do. Authoritarian parenting is very different from authoritative parenting. Authoritative parenting positions you as the authority, which you are. Authoritative parenting is you're going to do what I tell you to do and I don't owe you an explanation, which means you might get some short-term results, but you're going to have serious resentment and behavioral problems in the long run. I remember saying myself when I was a kid, and I was a pretty good kid, I said at one point to my older sister, well, if I'm going to do the time, I might as well do the crime. Because I was getting punished for stuff with no explanation as to why. So if I was going to get punished all the time, I might as well have had a little fun in the process. And this is where authoritarian parenting leads. Now, there was a study done at Harvard University, and I'll link it in the comments below if anybody's interested, about the effects of spanking on the child's brain. Now, remember, back to the beginning of the video, we talked about how the brain that is in fight or flight is incapable of learning. The prefrontal cortex is completely shut down. We're all in the amygdala here. And what do you think happens when you spank a child? They ain't in their best intellectually absorbent mode. They're in survival mode. They're in their amygdala. They're not learning anything. So if you want long-term changes to behavior, spanking is just, frankly, ineffective. And the study showed that using corporal punishment on a child actually increases the challenging behaviors, because it places the parent in the position of the enemy, and then they become a combatant. You don't want to be the enemy. You want to be on their team. On a global scale, on a corporate scale, on a personal scale, and on a child's scale, you're a lot more likely to listen to your allies than you are to your enemies. And then on top of that, it's just abusive. It doesn't make any sense. Don't hit people, so I'm going to hit you. That doesn't make any sense. And if your child understands why you're hitting them, why do you have to hit them? And if your child doesn't understand why you're hitting them, why the hell are you hitting them? And I know a lot of folks out there have this spare the rod, spoil the child idea, but it's not working. It's never worked. It only places your child in a state of fear, and it gets short-term, quick results, but in the long term, you're screwing your kid over. So hopefully this helps some of the overwhelmed parents out there. Stay safe out there, friends. Keep fighting the good fight. And stop to smell all the pretty flowers.